far as you can tell. Maybe actually you can press the like or the angry button. I'm growing a little bit of a beard here, pretty much just having a bit of a break from events over the next couple of weeks, so I thought I'd put the razor down. Let me know your thoughts. But look, that's not why I got onto Facebook today. The reason why I wanted to get on, once again, I saw today, every single article, I see something about housing affordability. Pretty much what I see every single day is just a bunch of rubbish being spouted. Now, a couple of things I wanted to address about this. So, firstly, there's no surprise this is the case, okay? 66% of households in Australia own their home, and then of course when you throw on top of that the amount of people that are looking to get into a home, that is a huge portion of the population that has an interest in housing affordability, has an interest in interest rates, has an interest in tax deductions, all that kind of stuff, right? So this is a subject of great interest, and of course, out there nowadays you've got so many people trying to get our attention, so many people trying to get us to click on their website so that they can sell more advertising, so many people that really don't know what they're talking about. Perfect proof. I'm on Facebook, right? I consider myself an authority, as do many people, but of course, everyone has now got a line of communication where they can, talk about their opinions. So there's also a lot of people out there that just simply don't have a clue what they're talking about. And of course, the thing that probably gets my goat the most is the amount of people out there that use this subject and use the fake news associated with it because they've got their ulterior motives. So look, a couple of things that I'm always committed to doing is making sure that whenever I do these Facebook Lives, whenever I talk to my clients, the thing that we do is we focus on facts, we focus on figures. Maybe we might open something up and of course let you be the one that decides, and of course we want to see your likes, your loves, your angries, your comments down the bottom so that this can be a discussion that gets up. But a couple of things in particular that I want to talk to you about today. Firstly, we've seen some leaks come out regarding what are the changes that the government are planning to implement in the next budget to impact housing affordability. Ben, just saw that you joined the Facebook Live. G'day mate, how are you? I hope things are well. So I wanted to talk about the leaked news that we've seen. So it seems that the government is going to implement a policy where they're going to charge fees to foreign investors who leave their investment properties vacant. Some of these fees will be up to $5,000 a year. So basically a $5,000 penalty for a foreign buyer that has an investment property, i.e. a vacant property. The way they're going to determine this is by measuring daily water usage. That's the proposed plan. It's not confirmed. Of course, we'll hear it out in the budget. Personally, I think this is a great idea. This is going to put more rentable properties out on the market. More competition on the market is what's ultimately going to get rents down. One of the big problems I see with Labor's policy in terms of attacking negative gearing is that, by removing the tax deductions associated with investment properties, i.e. what they refer to as negative gearing, essentially what it is going to do is it's going to increase the cost of an investor holding a property. Now, you look at any business around the country, anytime a supplier costs go up, of course those costs always get passed on to the consumer. So that would see rents go up. So that's what I love about this policy. This policy is going to see increased competition. Increased competition is going to push rents down, whereas of course the changes that Labor have been talking about is going to push rents up. The other side of that as well is that any proposed changes to negative gearing will probably see less people investing in property in the short term. Okay, it'll take demand out of the market in the short term. Of course, what that is going to lead to is an undersupply of investment properties, which of course will cause a spike. That'll cause a spike both in rental prices as well, ultimately in house prices. These governments are all well and good about proposing policies that make them look good in the short term, but of course, they don't really care about the long term because typically they're only in for about 4 years. They don't really think much further than that. We've also seen PricewaterhouseCoopers, or PwC as they are now known, formerly PricewaterhouseCoopers, have come out with a proposal that they think would dramatically increase housing affordability. This is something that I have thought along these lines about for a while, and I think this is a fantastic idea. Really, the issue with housing affordability is not so much the mortgage payments. We always see a lot of people try and connect wage growth to house price growth. They've never ever been connected. What banks have always done is, banks make the majority of their money by getting interest on mortgages, right? So they're never going to allow the day to come where consumers can't afford to have a mortgage. They create longer loans. They create things like shared equity schemes. And in fact, There's a report that came out a few months ago that says right now, the average household spends 33% of their income on the mortgage. If we look back in the 80s, that was 43%. So in fact, it's more affordable now than it was in the 80s to own a home. The big problem and the big factor that impacts housing affordability, and particularly stopping young Australians getting into the market, or any Australians, regardless of who you are, is the costs associated with getting into the property. Things like the deposit. You've got to throw stamp duty on. You've got to throw rates and taxes, all that kind of stuff. Another thing that I found interesting from a property council study recently, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but 40% of new properties are government fees and taxes, which is interesting. So if they were serious about attacking housing affordability, maybe they'd look at that. But PwC, they were proposing that rather than homeowners pay stamp duty up front, they'd have the choice between paying for stamp duty up front or for paying land tax in smaller instalments over the period of owning the home. I think that is a fantastic idea. It's going to reduce the barrier, allow people to get into homes much sooner, much younger, and enjoy the benefits of home ownership. And of course, typically one of the only appreciating assets that many people hold. I'd mentioned a couple of things about negative gearing. There was also some statistics that came out during the week, which I love for people to hear, because this is the truth about negative gearing, right? Once again, you'll see a lot of people out there trying to create the idea that negative gearing is, this tax break that these property moguls, these rich fat cats get out of paying taxes, and you have to fit the bill, and it's driving all the cost of houses up. These new statistics, 66% of people who negative gear have taxable income of under $80,000. That's not necessarily a new stat. That's been around for a while. But the new stat that come out is the average tax deduction that these people who are negative gearing get per year is $8,702. So that's not the tax they get back. That's the deduction that they get. So these people would be, if their taxable incomes are under $80,000, the maximum tax rate they'd be on is 32.5%. 32.5% of $8,700, we're talking just over $2,500. So that's what it costs for the average, that's the tax refund, you might say, that the average investor is getting for having an investment property. So once again, it kind of gives you a true reflection of really what the government is missing out on when people negatively gear. It's an idea that wins votes. It's not an idea that is sound in its economic principle. Final truth bomb that I wanted to drop for today is in regards to, once again, another thing that I see a lot is talks about housing bubbles. Housing is so overpriced. It's falsely elevated by investors, foreign investors, that kind of stuff. And that we should expect to see some kind of bubble burst and house prices drop by some dramatic amount. Typically these statements are made by people that are trying to sell their book, or they're doing their book tour. And the reason how they're able to back it up is by saying that Australian household debt is the highest that it's ever been. We can't afford this household debt. The thing that household debt is only important as a figure when you can keep it in mind relative to the assets. So the stats that came out regarding that this week is that the household assets in Australia is $11.7 trillion, minus the $2.3 trillion that we currently have in household debt, which means that the household net worth across Australia is $9.4 trillion. So, once again, we're talking, 24% or something along those lines. If you had a home and you only had 24% of the value of that home as a debt, you would be doing backflips, and yet that's what we have as a country. So to use that as an argument for some kind of housing bubble is just absolutely ridiculous. I've talked about the economic cycles before. The economic cycles we see every 16 to 20 years, average of 18.4. We're in a great phase right now. We should be expecting probably a stock market crash in 2019, but we should see the peak of the next housing boom here in Australia around about 2026. And of course, those of you that are well informed are able to take advantage of that kind of information and get yourselves into a good position so that you can be one of the only 9% of Australians that actually end up self-funding in retirement. So, guys, look, that's pretty much it for me. Probably talked about a lot more than I really wanted to talk about today, but like I said, just really committed to giving you guys as much of the facts and figures as possible. As you can see, when we actually really look at it in the real data, it's pretty easy to draw the conclusions. So once again, guys, like Love Angry, we want to get your feedback. We appreciate everyone's feedback. We appreciate everyone sharing the videos. You know, the audiences that we're getting for these videos is just, it's mind-blowing for me. And you know, of course, if you've got particular questions that you want to ask, comments that you've got, you want me to address certain things, please put them in the comment box below, because we'd love to give you guys as much value as we possibly can. Apart from that, I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of my break. I've got a couple, or just over a week more to go. You know, if you want to come and see me in the flesh, get along to one of our events, and I'll probably speak to you guys next week. However, I'll probably be sitting in a tropical island somewhere. All right, guys, have a great day. Speak to you soon.